Give it to me like. 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 Give it to me like.
Hi guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Sippin' Tea with Suzanne. I am so excited to be here, and in the studio with me today, I have none other than Victor Watson. Say what's up.
How you doing?
Okay, right. So Victor Watson is the funeral director, owner, and operator of Bishop's Funeral Home, and we're going to be talking to him in a bit. But listen, so much has happened since the last show, so let's recap. All right, we are in Black History Month, so happy Black History Month. And for this month of Black History, we're going to be highlighting just phenomenal Black men and women in different industry. So I'm so excited that Victor is my first guest for Black History Month. So make sure you go out there and learn something new, whether you are Black or not. Go out there and learn something new. I promise you, the rich tapestry of Black history is just phenomenal, and I love just learning new things from the ancestors. All right, so happy Black History Month. So stay tuned. You'll find out all the other phenomenal guests that I'm going to have for the rest of the month. Also, last week, for those of you who tuned in, we didn't have a show, but we did have our grand opening. And let me tell you, it was a grand opening, okay? It was so wonderful. So I want to say thank you to my community that showed up and showed out, like just everyone. I'm not going to call out everyone because I'm going to forget somebody and somebody's going to be in their feelings. So just thank you to every single person that came, that sent their well wishes. This is the chamber, worked through them, all the politicians, all the community members, the fellow entrepreneurs and all that, all the various groups that I belong to, friends, family, my hubby, of course, my kids, just thank you so much. And I said, I always do that, right? I said, I'm not going to call no names, and then I called names, but it's all right. You're all used to me by now. So just thank you to everyone. I will be posting the pictures soon. I have over 200. I got to select a few. But thank you from the bottom of my heart, and just please connect with me for anything. Thank you for my loyal listeners who tune in week after week, who like, subscribe, share the show, and also make sure you're hitting the notification button. Just want to make sure that I want to keep on bringing you guys phenomenal, fantastic guests. So tune in every week. I promise you to have somebody fantastic. Want to thank my producer, Paul Anderson, and my sponsor, Paul Anderson Photography, for the phenomenal shot during and after the show. Also, if you're interested in being a guest, interested in recommending a guest, or if you're interested in being a sponsor, please hit me up at Suzanne at PositivelySuzanne.com. So now we get to turn to Mr. Victor Watson. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I am so good. I cannot complain. God is good to me.
Absolutely.
So welcome to the show. So let's tell the audience what you do.
So I am a licensed funeral director in Massachusetts. I service everybody, community of Worcester, Massachusetts. I've been doing this professionally for quite a few years. I've been licensed since 2010. As I was telling you, I've been doing it since about 2007. It's interesting work. I help people, basically. It is the service industry, so I do help people, and that feels good, but it is, within that, it is quite interesting work.
I can imagine. The funny thing is, he won't say it, but I'll say it. He is the only black funeral home in Worcester.
Yes.
Because I didn't even know you existed.
Absolutely.
And, I didn't.
I get that a lot.
I ain't gonna lie.
I get that a lot.
So it was a friend of mine, unfortunately had a death in the family who, found you and was telling me that, how nice they were, and they're like, he's black. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, no, that was the conversation on the phone. Like, girl, did you know it was a black funeral director? And he was like, we did the rounds. So I was like, okay, this is wonderful. And, I say that jokingly, but I think representation is so important.
It is. And,
to have somebody in that field, because it's not a field that's populated by a lot of folks that look like me and you.
That is true.
So it was really good to see, that you were in that role, and to hear that, how wonderful you are, the different services that you provide. But I will say this, something happened to me that I think happens to a lot of y'all, because I was a little hesitant to be talking about this on the show.
A lot of people don't really want to have that conversation.
We don't. And I literally had to okay, Suzanne, it is a part of life. Mm-hmm. It is the one part that's guaranteed, and it's so important. But I don't know. It wasn't fear. It's just so I'm from the islands, and it's kind of like, if you talk about it, they're going to come.
Yeah, that's people of color right there.
Yeah, and I'm an intelligent woman.
Yeah.
But it's in the back of my mind, when I really examined why I was so hesitant to reach out to you, it's because deep down, it's don't borrow no trouble.
Right. But
go on.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that, and a lot of different stigmas. People are also often afraid of the dead. And I always tell people, it's I'm safer in my office than I am outside.
Yes.
Because the dead don't bother you.
Yeah.
They honestly don't.
Yeah.
There's no ghosts or spirits or
Okay.
anything like that at the funeral home.
Yeah.
And I'm a spiritual person. Like,
Yeah.
I believe in a higher power, and I also believe in an afterlife. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't, but I do, because like
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that. So like this world is really not the best.
No.
And not just from time to time, just it's not the best.
We got problems.
We got problems down here.
We
So
got a few.
I just find it hard to believe that we could go through all that we go through down here just for that to be it.
Yeah.
So I definitely, do believe in, a spiritual afterlife.
Yeah.
So that's why there's not ghosts hanging around the funeral home.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay.
They got
You heard
better
that?
things to do. They got better things to do, I would think.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I know it, and like I knew it was something holding me back. Like, it's even when it's just like, but then you know what? I really think about how important it is to be connected to someone like you, because unfortunately, in our culture, we're not often prepared for death.
Absolutely.
And and I mean, nobody's prepared, even when someone is sick and
No,
all of that.
no, it's still sudden.
Exactly. But what I mean by prepared, it's like financially,
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that we plan for.
Right.
We don't have a conversation.
Right.
I remember, and I'm not going to mention, what faith, because, you can offend everybody these days.
Right.
But I remember when I first came to America, I kid you not, the person died on a Monday, and by Wednesday they were buried.
Yes.
I was like, mother, what? Like, what? Like, I was like, wait, what?
Yes. Yes.
There's no month?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
And see, and then, as you said, there's so many different
yeah.
cultural things, but yeah, you have, quite a few religions there that, I mean, if you could, it would be burial by sundown the same day of the passing.
moly.
That's kind of what tradition is for some people.
Okay.
And then you have, the average person of color, where we're trying to make sure that everybody can get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You got family coming from out of
Africa,
state,
from
out of country.
Jamaica, from
They need visas. So it's like, it could be 2 months from now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and within that though, that's kind of why, for me, you need a person of color to service you, because there are cultural things and cultural differences, especially when it comes to funeral service and grieving, that everybody just kind of doesn't understand. And when I say understand, like in that understanding, we're running a business. So in the understanding, some of that actually has to be monetary. So, everyone has a price list. This is what this costs, blah, 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 blah. But in some instances, you don't raise your price for any reason. You don't see somebody pull up in a Tesla and, now $5,000 becomes 10. That's not really how it's supposed to work. But within that courtesy, discounts can be offered. You see what I'm saying? Because some things kind of go a little bit beyond control. You know what I mean? And, I've had instances where, people are having a service here and they are shipping to, to Africa.
Excuse
Are you
me.
okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
So, and they
Go
do
on.
want to ship from here to Africa. And, like we said, it's like, there's visas involved and, there's arrangements to be made on the other end. And, especially during COVID, like you can't get a flight now. And there's all these like circumstances that now, extend the grief, like it extends the grief for these people. So,
Yeah.
although there may be a fee for this and a fee for that, I do a lot of, reductions because some things, again, this is, some things are cultural. So I realize that you're not asking me to, hold your loved one for 5 or 6 months because you can't afford something or because you're trying to take advantage of me. It's the fact that like, things might not be ready till then. You know, so where there is a fee for things like that, I've never charged the maximum for that fee, and I've held a lot of people for extended periods of time.
Well,
You know,
so the thing is, I mean, so in your industry, you know, sadly, you do meet people
Yes.
on some of the worst days of their life.
Yes.
You know, my friend, I know when she met you, it was the day that her loved one passed away.
Right.
And someone told her about you and she went to visit you. But that's the day she met you.
Right.
The absolute worst day of her life. I can attest to that.
Yeah.
But I remember her saying to me, Suzanne, this man is so good. He's so kind and he's so accommodating and he's helping me so much.
Right.
And that, what you did, because you said it was a service industry,
Right.
like, it didn't take the pain away,
No, it doesn't.
but it helped in a very, very dark day to have some sunlight.
Right.
So
Right.
it is such a valuable service that you provide. So thank you for that. And I know that, like, she was the one that told me about you, and I'm like, I have to have you on the show. But then after, I had to get over my,
Right.
you know,
Your initial fear.
my initial fear, like, Lord.
Yeah.
And, you know, but no, so thank you for the service that you provide. Thank you for, you know, the level of not only professionalism, but compassion that you offer to these people
Right.
on, like I say, the absolute worst day
Right.
of their life.
No, absolutely. And that's why I do it. So, you know, initially I've done a lot of different things for work. But, you know, once, you know, that's why, like, I do this because it, like you said, it is, you know, people's worst day. And, you know, that initial phone call, oftentimes is very difficult. Sometimes you get people and they're, you know, sitting with the person that's passed. So it's a lot of tears and emotion. And, you know, sometimes there is no phone call. They just, you know, people just walk in off the street and, you know, it's the same thing. It's like, you know, people are overwhelmed and it's, you know, it's for me to kind of try to, you know, help you pull things together. You know, not your emotions, you know, because people grieve how they grieve. That's not what it's about. But it's so hard to gather your thoughts when you're just overwhelmed with emotion. You know, so it's my job to try to make it easier for you to just kind of get through this piece. You know what I mean? And try to, you know, do a lot of the, even like the legwork, as like people would say. You know, I make a lot of phone calls for people to different places because they just, they can't talk to anybody right now. And, you know, it's just, I can't, like you said, I can't take the pain away, but if whatever I can do to make things easier, you know, I try to kind of go out of my way to do that, you know. I've seen how much it helps, you know. It's easy to, you know, empathize with people that are in pain because, you know, everyone's experienced pain. And it's like everyone's grief is different. You know, not everybody's lost the same loved one as someone else. But, you know, that visceral emotion that you feel when you lose someone, it's like it's the one thing that, you know, you should be able to empathize with someone, you know, with. And a lot of people do this career and they're not cut out for it. You know, just like, you know, people always talk about a doctor and bedside manner. It's like, you might be a great surgeon. But you shouldn't ever talk to patients. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's people like that too. It's like, you just don't, you're not cut out for that. You know, and it's like, and it's not that you can't do another piece of what we do, but you shouldn't sit up front. You know what I mean? It's just some people that just, you just don't know how to talk to people.
No.
You know? But I do like what I do, and that helps also.
That's good. I mean, it really shows that you love what you do. You know, you said something interested, and you said, and I don't want to disagree with a guest, you said people empathize with others. But I found, sadly, the culture that we're living in now, cruelty is celebrated.
Right.
Like, people make fun of people, and
all the time.
we've kind of gotten desensitized to the affliction of others. And it's just like when things happen, they're like, oh, another school shooting, or I'm not like I can't, like, here I am bawling, grieving for the mother, the sister, the child.
I agree.
And it's just like, and I think I really want that to be true, what you said. I really want us to get back to the point where we care about what happens to our fellow man.
Yeah.
And no, I am glad that you're in a field like that, and you're right that you need compassion.
You do.
To be in that. I had a doctor once that was like so rude about something. I called. I was like, I said, I pay way too much money every month for insurance plus my job for her to be rude. Let's get me another doctor. Like,
some people just don't care.
I can't.
Yeah, because you're just at work. And see, some jobs are not jobs.
Yeah.
Like you can't come to, you're not working at Burger King.
No.
You know what I mean? So you can't come to work with that, I'm just doing my 9 to 5. I'm gonna get through this. Yeah, I'm gonna get through this day. It's like there's just some jobs you can't.
No.
They just don't work that way.
No.
And that's what I mean. It's like some people are not prepared for the task at hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they like, and as you said, it's like, I mean, I know a lot of people that have empathy.
Yeah.
But I also know a lot of people that
don't. Like that. I see that's how I'm torn, because it's like they're like, they'll be all right, and I'm like,
But they won't.
They won't. Like,
but they won't be all right.
Like they won't. So.
But people don't have. A lot of people also don't have. They just don't have it. But some things. I mean, some things are natural. Don't get me wrong. But some things like also can be taught.
Yes.
And as you said with the cruelty, so some people just didn't grow up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, there's always those, there's kids that, pull the girl's hair that they like, or, like they hit their best friend because they're their best friend. It's like, it's like these things that kids do, like, in grade school. And in some ways, people have missed their steps of evolution to adulthood. For whatever reason, they've been emotionally stunted. And that's its own defect.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, that's why you see a lot of what you see, and, as people want to talk about a little bit more now, but didn't before, it's like, and then there's a lot of mental health issues. And, people think of a mental health issue and it's someone that's completely out of control or someone that's harming people. It's like, no, like, there's sociological issues. There's a lot of sociopaths. And you hear that word and you think of Dexter. You know what I mean? And it's like, but no, that's actually not what you're coming across. You're coming across, like you said, people that just have no empathy. And it's like, those are sociopathic tendencies that someone should have picked up probably when you were younger
A long time
and
ago.
helped you along. But
Yeah.
again, and then you have people that, and then there's a cycle of that. It's like, people can't, it's hard for someone to raise a child well, to be a well-rounded adult in society if they weren't given that. But there's a saying that, hurt people. So there's a ton of cycles that like need to be broken. And people think, people name a couple, but it's like, you don't even know how deep into the cycles, like, your people are, that like, you're trying to stop something that actually isn't even that bad. You know what I mean? It's like, like discipline.
Yeah.
I know a bunch of, I'm never gonna like, discipline my kids this way or that way because like my mom did or my dad did. And it's like, and you're probably a better person for it.
I ain't gonna lie, I got beat. And
I did too.
But I was in Jamaica.
And I know I'm a better person for it.
I am.
Because like, my mom didn't abuse me, but like, I don't know where I'd be.
If you didn't have that.
Yeah, if I didn't have that, so this isn't gonna happen again. You know what I mean? Type of like altercation, honestly, with your parent.
Yeah.
People don't want to have altercations with their kids. People don't want to let their kids down. It's like, that's not your friend.
They want to be.
That's not your friend.
Literally just had that conversation with my teen daughter yesterday. Like,
we're not buddies.
No, boo boo, we are not friends. Like,
and it's like, and when you're younger, you don't realize that it's like, that will happen. You'll become a friend with your parent in adulthood.
Yes, after.
But that's still not your friend.
No.
I'm 43, and like when my mom calls, I answer. If my mom says something, I heed it. Because she still knows more than I do.
Well, she does. And here's the other thing, because you know you got your friend, like you're really close, like, and let's just say your friend says something out of pocket. You're like, listen, fool.
Right.
Try saying that to your mother at any age. I know I can.
I know I won't.
I won't. I can't. I shall.
Yep,
I shall.
absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely, because that's not my friend.
no.
That's not my friend.
Mom,
not like
I love
that.
you.
Yep.
But you ain't my friend, girl.
Exactly. Exactly. But there's not,
Yeah.
that's been lost. People
Yeah.
talk about like, what's been lost. And it's like,
Yeah.
and people say values, but it's like, but you don't even know what values are. Because like a lot of values haven't been lost.
No.
It's like, but core values have. Things that happen inside the house
Yeah.
aren't happening anymore. And like that extends to outside. And you walk around and
Yeah.
you have people on airplanes now trying to open the door mid-flight.
Jesus.
My mom was on a plane and a guy sitting next to her tried to open the door mid-flight.
Like, why?
What are you doing?
Like, dude.
What are you doing?
What do you think is out there?
Nothing. But like, you know what I mean? It's just the simple fact
I know.
that no one's in control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that doesn't go from the bottom up, it goes from the top down.
It
It's
does.
like the government's not in control.
It does. I think we've just gotten into the idea, like poor behavior is rewarded, and we see it over and over again. And the worse you behave, the more popular you become.
And I just
And and
I
it's
don't get
sad. I'm not pretending I'm perfect here or
No,
indicting
but-
anybody, but I think that when you look at the most popular shows on TV, it's about people behaving badly. It's about
is.
people being vicious to each other and calling
It
it
is.
friendship. And there's a couple of shows that it's supposed to be about female friends, and all they do is like I'm not gonna call them names because I ain't trying to get canceled before I get started. But I'm just saying there is not one instance of true friendship
No.
that I've seen, because it's like I don't trust you to say something bad about me or
Right.
to have my back. So
Right.
I feel like when we're in a culture where cruelty and being mean and making fun of each other is a pastime,
Right.
they learn that.
Yeah.
And so
Young.
and you mentioned, in the homes, like I have these conversations with my kids, like after a school shooting or after atrocities or, after that, to like, hey, did you hear about it? Because I don't want them to become desensitized to
Right.
it. Like, I don't want to always have to come to them with bad news, but I want to make sure that
Yeah.
they are feeling it, that they're grieving, that they're offering up a
Right.
prayer for
Right.
the person, because I never want them to be ignorant of someone else's pain.
No, I agree. I mean, I remember Columbine and
Oh, my God.
how shocked the
Yeah.
entire world, not America, the world was shocked that,
Yeah.
a school could be shut up
Yeah.
by students. And I remember how shocking that was. And like you said,
Yeah.
it's like there is a school shooting at least once a month now.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it
people
is
don't even
commonplace.
watch it. People don't even
And
watch it anymore.
yeah, it's like I watch the news,
Yeah,
and it's depressing.
it is.
But I can't be ignorant to the world around me.
Yeah.
I watch the news every morning. Sometimes in the evening, if
Yeah.
if something was breaking during
Yeah.
the day or something. But like I watch the news every morning, and
Yeah,
it's just really depressing.
it is. I will admit that I don't tend to watch the news. My husband watches it, and I'm forced to watch it. So
Yeah, 'cause you
but,
just-
like
I
I
have
do
to know.
Like I know I try to get snippets and but it's sometimes even hard to get to the facts because depending on who's reporting and
Yeah,
the
there's that.
station, there's just so much going on. But no, I know we went way off tangent, didn't we?
I know.
It's
I know.
okay though, but it's related because I think it leads back to your industry,
It
the
does.
need for kindness, the need for compassion, and the need for empathy. And like you're called. Listen, let's go church now. Yeah, we're called for that role, my brother. So
No, I agree.
I think you have to have a call in to be in a role like that because again, it is customer facing, human
is.
being facing, and you have to be able to be compassionate to be in that role.
You do. And I think the issue for some funeral directors is being able to relate and disassociate. I'm not gonna I can't afford to, cry with you at the casket, no matter how sad like these things are that are happening around us. But you should be able to, like I said before, it's like still empathize. You should still be able to have all of your compassion as if this is a family member without also breaking down.
Yeah.
And like I think a lot of people can't find that like medium, and it leads to you being too disassociated, and now you're just cold, or you're too emotional and you burn out. Because like funeral directors, there's a high burnout rate in this business, because it can be overly emotional for some people, but it's life, at the end of the day, and you have to, I think a lot of people, even that work in this industry, people try to act like they don't. I think people get to a point where when you start to face your own mortality, things in you change. But that I don't have. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm not afraid of death. I mean, it's a natural part of life. There's nothing I can do to prevent it. You can do everything you can to extend your time, which I try to do. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm just, I see it every day. I mean, I've outlived my father already. My father died young, in a car accident. But so for me, it's, I look around me and I see young people, passing and old people passing. It's like, it's everybody. So I mean, you can't walk around in fear of what could or could not happen, because then you just don't live.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to get to the end of everything and have regret. Like, to be perfectly honest, I just don't.
No, I understand that. So you touch on something which I actually was going to ask you, but I think it's so important, especially what you do. I mean, you're right. I don't want to have the funeral director blubbering at the casket with me and be like, dude, calm down. Like, let it.
You didn't even know her. It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
I get it.
Yeah.
Be there.
Yeah.
But so I get that. But it is also a highly emotional thing, and you hear the plight, and you hear these stories. So how do you take care of you to ensure that you don't burn out? Because it's a high burnout rate.
It is. And I, find ways to unwind. It's easier to unwind. I mean, we live in Massachusetts, and it's always cold here. It's easier.
There's a day in July that's warm.
It's like warm.
Yes.
But like I like the outdoors. Like I'm an outdoors person. So it's harder to do, in the winter. But I fish, and I like to hunt. I haven't been hunting in quite a while, but I have those abilities. But I like to do all kinds of things, like camping. I'm really like an outdoors type person.
Just like me.
Right. It's like, but I also like media. So it's like I can sustain myself on good movies and things like that.
Okay.
I do still play video games.
That's okay.
I'm not ashamed to admit that. I have a PlayStation 5. It's like I do play video games, but it's like, but video games also help with hand-eye coordination. Yeah. So as I get older, my dexterity is everything because of what I do. The office stuff is easy.
Yeah.
But, like the embalming and the prep and things like that.
Wow.
A lot of what I do is like plastic surgery, to be perfectly honest. Is a lot of, small pieces of things that like we're doing. People don't think about it, but so my goal is to always present someone that people can grieve over. Because as far as I'm concerned, seeing that person there, even if you don't want a funeral, you should do, an ID or something. You should see the person, that has passed away, because I think that is a big, big part of the grieving process. It's final. Yeah. Once you've seen them, and it's real to you. And I know a lot of people avoid that because they don't want it to be real. And that's fine for some people, but in denying yourself some of the things that are real, this is how you get some of this emotional, stunting, in your like youth and like as an adult. You never like your body changes every 7 years, but your mind is changing too. And it's not always changing for the better. There's a lot of deterioration. Every day that you live, we break down a little bit more. And, only by the grace of God does anybody keep all of their mental faculties. You see what I'm saying? So I think you should never do something that could possibly hinder that. That you need that emotional and mental growth throughout your life. I know a lot of people don't like to read, but that's why you should read, because there's certain things that you can't keep your mind sharp if you're not doing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's part of the reason I kind of play the video games too, because again, like I said, the hand-eye coordination, and there's a lot of quick movements. So I'm just always trying to do something to keep myself sharp, because you should also know the health of your lineage. And memory is one of the things that we lose in my family. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, know yourself.
Okay.
So I don't want to, I don't, if and when, hopefully it doesn't, because everyone doesn't in my family, but if my memory starts to go, I need to do everything I can to keep all the good pieces. You know what I mean?
Okay.
My mom, she, her memory is not, and my mom is so intelligent, and she has so much knowledge in her mind, and her memory is not what it was. So, and I see that she acts like it doesn't bother her, but I see the frustration. And I think everybody should keep their wits about them.
Okay.
And like the world changes every day.
It does.
You know what I mean? And like it's not becoming a better place. So these are the things that people need to be doing to help sustain themselves and the world itself.
No, absolutely. And I think I think it's so important that, again, especially in the field that you're in, that you do things maintain not only your health, but, mentally, physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, all of them. And to shop for groceries financially. So
Right. And it's like, and when you do hear those stories, everyone's sad, someone, you're grieving, and everyone's telling stories about this person's life. And as emotional as that is, and it is a little easier for me if I don't know the deceased, obviously. But it's also easier for me to, keep, positive thoughts, because though it does happen, it's rare that people get up and tell an awful story about someone, about like how awful of a person they were.
Lord.
So as sad as, the room is, when people get up there and they start sharing those stories, it's like, that's uplifting for me.
Wonderful.
And I don't, unless it does happen, which is rare, I don't have to hear any of the negative stuff. You know what I mean? So other than the circumstance right before us, I get to hear all these great stories about somebody. So it's like, I can stay positive.
Yeah. Okay. No, I understand that. It's funny, we're talking about death, right? And I remember I lost my dad in 2018. I remember the morning that he passed and leaving the hospital, and I was shocked that the world was still going.
Right.
I was like, what?
Right.
Like, my world just ended. Like, why are people going to work, going to Dunkin' Donuts, like acting a fool? Like, the world needs to stop. And I think that's one of the hardest part about death and the ones that are left living.
Right.
Like, you expect the world to be altered or changed in some way. But sadly, most of the times, for all intents and purposes, your life is impacted, but the rest of the world just goes on like normal. And I think that's hard for people to deal with sometimes. And I think that's why sometimes folks lose their ever-loving mind.
They do. And I've seen it. You can lose your mind completely
at funerals.
in grief. And
you
in grief.
Can. In grief, absolutely.
Because there is, I don't judge anyone's grief.
Can't.
But psychologically, there is a point where, different things, it's a combination of factors. It's not just like, you wake up one morning and there you are.
No, it builds.
But it gets to a point where, people do get to a space of, what psychiatrists would consider to be unhealthy grief. and it's like, and I get, like I said, there's many factors that lead there, but that within itself is rare.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's like, the world doesn't end.
Stop.
It doesn't. And, I feel like that's where that's why, I don't know, it's like, I guess just, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because like, no matter how many cases I have or what's going on or funerals this week or something, it's like each one of those people, each one of those families to me, it's like they are a special case. They are, and I do make people feel that way because you need that.
Yeah.
It's like and I've had, people speak to me on this. It's like every family should feel as though they're the only family that you're dealing with. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like I have 5 funerals this week. You shouldn't even know that unless you knew the other 4 people. You know what I mean? It's like, because what I got going on has something to do with what you have going on. So I just feel like, and I've seen it done both ways, but when families don't feel that you are focused on them and what they have going on, they feel that. And I feel like it shows in your work. The same thing when, families come and your firm has serviced multiple people for their family, but it seems like every time they come, the person that they know to be the owner isn't there. They notice that.
Yeah.
Like, I know people that vacation a lot.
Yeah.
As the owner, because they feel as though they can. And that's fine, do whatever you want, live your own life. But
you're the owner.
and if I cover for you and a family's there and they see me there, they know I own my own place. You see what I'm saying? So they're like, you're only here because that person is on vacation yet again. You see what I'm saying? Or they say to me, it's like, on vacation again? It's like, yep. It's like, what can I, you know what I mean? What can I say? It's
Nothing
like,
you can do.
And that's not a good feeling for me.
No.
You know what I mean? That like families feel like you neglect them or like you neglect your business. And that's not really anyone's business because you run your business how you want. But everybody has their own opinion. And I feel as though you should be present. You're running a business. I know people like myself that are. I don't like, like you said, I don't name names, but I know a funeral director that has, owned her place for quite some time. And I used to think to myself, like, God, don't you want a vacation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you have enough staff, you have enough going on that, like, take a break.
Yeah.
And for me, like, for your own mental health,
Yeah.
like, you do, you have your little couple vacations, but it's like, but you don't even need to be here right now. Like, take a break, but it's like, but it just goes to show you, it's like, but you care. That's why you're here. You're not you're not here because you got to watch this person because they're stealing, or you're not here because this person doesn't do any work. You're here because you want to be.
You want to be.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
For the
and I feel
families.
like, right. Even if you can't be on all those funerals,
Yeah.
even though you can't do all those arrangements, the family that came in the door knows you're sitting in an office somewhere.
They know you're there.
If they ask for you, if you're busy, you're gonna step in that room and say hello. That's, to me, it's like, unless you're running,
Yeah.
like, who do you think you are? That's kind of how it is for me. You know what I mean? Unless you have 20 firms and you're some big mogul where it's impossible for you to be at all those places at one time. Why aren't you at work?
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm just one of those, and I like to vacation. I like to travel.
Too.
I look forward to retirement, but
Yeah.
I just don't know why you're not at work.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know, but like you said, right, to each his own, and you do it. But no, I do believe that the families appreciate that. I mean, I didn't have you when, because like I just found out about you and you were open, when my dad passed. But I will say that, my experience was positive. I remember going to, and I'm of course, I'm like, I got this. I remember going to the hospital the day to look at the body or identify the body. I don't even know why they do that or whatever.
Sometimes the ID needs to be made.
And but they didn't wheel out the body, which was good. They brought a picture.
Right.
And I didn't bring anybody with me, not even my husband, because I thought I would be fine. I remember losing it.
I bet.
In the guy's office, the medical examiner's office. I was just like started bawling and I'm like, So like, he had tissues, very, very nice. And,
Yeah.
he said like, and I said, I remember apologizing. He's like, no, I set the time aside for you. And I remember thinking,
Right.
that's so nice because like, he
Right.
could have been like just in and out and like
Right.
rushed me, but he gave me the time to sit
Right.
there and cry and understood that it could go anyway. With
He had no
coming
idea how
in.
long he'd be there.
Exactly. So I appreciated that. And, the guy that I dealt with at the funeral home, he was also very nice,
Right.
like they talked to us. So
Right.
I remember it was a comfort to me, during
should
that
be.
difficult time. So I think that's why it's so important. But how soon is too soon? Because again, we don't often think of contacting a funeral home until
Right.
someone is sick or if they're taken suddenly. So
Right.
can you plan for it? Do you?
You can.
Like if I'm in my 20s, am I calling you and says like,
Right.
hey, like how does that work?
So, and I often talk about this a lot. Every once in a while, I do like a seminar. It's been a while, but I do like a pre-need seminar because people should. I mean, if you can, you should have life insurance. And I always tell people this. And not like, this full life. And I'm not an insurance agent.
Let's get
so
that
it's
out
like,
there.
yeah, it's
And
like,
I know a
don't,
few.
yeah, and there's so much I don't know about insurance. I'm going to
Yes.
be honest. But there is like term and full life. People get term because it pays higher. And like a lot of times, like the monthly premiums are less. And that's great.
Yeah.
If you're gonna die in 10 years or less. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like, no one's thinking about that, but that's really what it is. It's like, because like it's for a term period. If you don't renew it, like, people forget. So it's like, if you don't renew it, it doesn't automatically renew. You'll have paid all this money into a life insurance policy that at the end of the day, you don't even have anymore. But like I always tell people, get full life because,
Yeah.
you still pay every month. But you don't have to worry about something rolling over, or did you renew it, or any of that stuff. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? It's like, but aside from insurance, because a lot of people don't want to pay into that, the pre-arrangement process, it can be done at any time. You set up an appointment, we, discuss what you want for your options, we write everything up. As long as I don't put things like the cemetery into a pre-need contract because I can't control their prices. I can't control the prices of the casket people either, but I'm more willing to cost protect that because like I can better estimate what's going to happen with that. So, we would write a contract as long as things are paid for at the time of death. Everything would be cost protected except for the cemetery. But you pay, like, you pay as you want to pay. Once the contract is written, every time you give a payment, I don't keep it. I send it to Cambridge Trust Company. We set up a trust. That trust builds interest every month. It's not very much. So actually, that's not true. When the market fluctuates high, I notice those interests on those accounts are a little bit better. But it's a trust account, so, it's there. Cambridge Trust Company's been around for like 200 years, so I'm not worried about them, going out of business.
Right?
Yeah. So, but that's what we do. We set up a trust. It's a funeral trust. It can't be touched or changed well, we have a revocable and an irrevocable.
Okay.
I always suggest the irrevocable because what you don't want is for someone to alter it or change it later outside of you, kind
Yeah.
of. So what's there is there. It's held in trust until the time comes, and you don't have anything to worry about. You don't have to worry about if your family's going to be fighting over money for the service, or if you don't like this casket, or if you don't like, you know what I mean? None of that matters because you don't. Once you've passed, we now enact a legal contract. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, so you don't have to worry about. There's nothing to fight over. There's no
taken care of.
options to make
Yeah.
because like this is what they wanted, and I can't let you alter the contract. The only alterations that could be made is if for some reason the casket you selected, 20 years ago or something doesn't exist, then we would, have to match that best we can. That happens sometimes. I've actually seen that happen. I've, working for someone else, executed a contract that was like 30 years old or something like that. And it's like, oh, they haven't made this casket in like 20 years. Like,
Oh.
you know, at the time, it's like, you know, it was like something like ridiculous like that. So like, you know,
Yeah.
those are the only alterations that really get made. But it's something that it gives you peace of mind.
I was just gonna say, I can't imagine the peace of mind that you get from
It
that,
does.
like knowing that, you know, A, you're not gonna be a burden, and
Right.
things price change.
They do.
And you know,
A lot.
most times we are not prepared for death. Like when my dad passed, I was not prepared. I will be very honest. I
Yeah.
wasn't ready. I hadn't planned. He had no life insurance. You know, I
Right.
hadn't planned anything. So all of a
Right.
sudden, I had to come up with all this money.
Yeah.
You know, and it was over 15 grand when all was said and done.
And that's costly. And that brings me to another point of why I'm in Worcester.
Okay, talk to me.
So there are a handful of funeral homes in Massachusetts that are owned by people of color. I won't even say black owned, people of color. There's 5 or 6 in the city of Boston, and they're all Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan.
Okay.
There's one in Brockton, and the guy in Brockton also has a place in Mattapan. So that's
Okay.
the same guy. You see
Okay.
what I'm saying? There's a guy in Cambridge, and then there's like an Asian funeral home, the only Asian funeral home in
Wow.
Boston. So now you got like 6, you know, between Cambridge, Brockton, and Boston, you have like 6 or 7 people of color owning a funeral home.
Wow.
You have one in Springfield. And then you have a friend of mine that's a person of color. He's, you know, Puerto Rican, but the point is, he's a person of color. He's in Lawrence. And he's not even from Massachusetts.
Wow.
You know, he's originally from New York. So it's like, and then I'm in Worcester. So from Springfield to Boston, there are no black funeral homes or funeral homes owned by anybody of color.
Wow.
Because like we're not going to go up and over to go to Lawrence. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? In the straight line
Yeah.
on the Pike. You have to go to Rhode Island. You have to go to Providence to
Okay.
catch another like, you know, black
Yeah.
funeral home. So it's like, so I'm like, well, I mean, it's no Boston, you know, when it comes to the amount of people like of color in Worcester. But I'm like,
There's a lot of us though. There's so
ton.
much. There's so
a ton
much.
of like just black people.
Like the black people, there's
That's what I
Africans,
mean.
Asians,
That's what I
Jamaican,
mean. And then
Antiguan,
there's so there's
Trini.
the mix of people of
Yeah.
color. I'm like, it's incredible to me that people of color in the second largest city in New England
Yeah.
don't have an option of a person of color to service them. You know, so like that's just crazy to me. And then when I started looking, I realized that when you leave Boston, the cost of funeral service goes up, not down. You know, so it's like you would think in the capital city that would be where you get the most expensive funeral service. In Worcester, on average,
Really?
people are paying like $1,500 more just for like
Okay.
funeral service. I'm not talking about the cemetery and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm talking about at the funeral home.
Okay.
People are paying like 15 to, I've seen some crazy numbers. You just mentioned $15,000
In 2018.
in 2018 for a funeral service. And like, I'm telling you that I think that's too much.
I thought it was too much, but
If
I
you're
didn't have a
not-
choice. And that
honestly,
was, I
if-
mean, I included everything, including like the repast and everything.
I get that.
But I also,
I get that.
and I
but-
went with somebody who, you know, like literally, like
Right.
I met with a few different
Right.
ones. And I was like, I am not
Right.
mortgaging my house for this.
And when I hear a lot of prices. I had someone come to me for their dad because the funeral home they were at was trying to charge them like $13,000 for the services. We all have the same casket, people, so
Yeah.
I can match your casket. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they ended up paying like half that.
Wow.
Like going with us. And I'm not trying to undercut anybody.
No, you can't.
But I came from Boston, and I came from a place where I saw what people who are paying Boston rent and Boston mortgages and Boston taxes are charging for funeral service. And I'm like, well, how can you justify charging what people are charging in Worcester for funeral service, and you're in Worcester?
yeah.
I know what rent costs here. I live here.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I know what, like, taxes are expensive here. Don't get me wrong. Property taxes are expensive here. But this isn't Brooklyn.
Okay.
You know what I mean? This isn't like New York City. This
Okay.
isn't New Jersey. This isn't DC.
Yeah.
Like, I have to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I'm running a business, but I still have to like lay my head on that pillow at night and like sleep and know that like I didn't like cheat somebody. And you know, at the end of the day, I'm not knocking anybody else's business or your hustle or like, you know, I don't know what your mortgage is like. I don't know how many. I don't have no kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know how many mouths you might have to feed.
Yeah.
But I know what I do.
Yeah.
And I know what like I can charge for something.
Okay.
And I didn't come from money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I still don't have money.
Yeah.
I don't have money. You know what I mean? I'm not rich or anything like that.
It's coming.
Yeah, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, but funeral service can be, it can be affordable.
Okay.
And like, that's what I pride myself in, that I feel like I give respectable service for an affordable price. And, you know, I know a lot of people think that if it doesn't cost this, then it can't be good. And it's
I
like,
know.
but that's not true. A Tesla costs $250,000 and it's going to catch fire in your garage. So, you know what I mean? Like, what
Shots fired.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean though? Like, what are you
Listen.
telling me? They just they finally got that Tesla SUV out on the market. And the first guy that got it, it rained that week and his Tesla truck rusted.
No.
You see what I'm saying? It only took rain.
Wow.
That's why they stopped selling the DeLorean, because you can't put a stainless steel car out on the street. It's gonna rust. But anyway,
Okay.
money doesn't mean it's better. It's just, look how much money Donald Trump got. Do you want Donald Trump? You know what I mean? Money doesn't mean better. It just doesn't.
It doesn't.
You know
I
what mean?
understand.
So it's like I'm offering a service, and I'm offering the best service that, like, you know, can't, as far as I'm concerned, can be offered, and it just doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg, you know. And I'm not providing everything. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, you know, like I rent, like I get my hearse for like a service. I have my own hearse when I, you know, pickups and stuff like that. But like the service coach, I rent that from a company. The limousine, like I get that from a company. With outsourcing things, I still don't have to charge what some of the other people are charging. So it's
Yeah.
like, because it doesn't cost that.
No, I mean, listen, I appreciate, honestly, when I found out about, you know, what you do, and like I said, and this was like firsthand testimony, and the service that I went to was, you know, wonderful as services can be, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still a funeral, but
Right.
like you said, I think it was tastefully done, you know, the family, good space there, you know,
Right.
folks felt good, and I think that, you know,
And that's what matters.
the family felt that, you know, their loved one got a good send off.
Right.
You know, so compassion, care, cost, they didn't felt that they were gouged on
Right.
it. So please, I mean, it blows my mind that there is only one in Worcester, and there is so many funeral homes in Massachusetts. Maybe I should have looked that up. Yeah, that happened to me before. You know, how many funeral homes there is in Massachusetts. And I know folks will be like, well, what does have to be a black funeral home? And I, you know,
Right.
representation matters.
It does.
And there's certain things that culturally are so important that somebody else might not understand why. You know, it's why my friend is Brazilian and we don't go to the same hairdresser, because they just won't understand my hair. And she can't come, like, she won't come to my hairdresser because, like, the waiting alone would kill her. She was like, "You're still at the hairdresser?" And I already know I brought my snack, my book,
Right.
and
Exactly.
my laptop and everything, even though I had an appointment. But, you know, it's just certain cultural thing. And to mention that, you know, an Asian, there's an Asian funeral home.
Yes.
And I think that's so important too, because there's a lot of thing in that culture that, you know, again, that folks won't be mindful of
Right.
if they're not aware of it. So I do think that representation matter. I think that,
It does.
and I think it also would behoove funeral home directors to understand other culture, because to learn that you're going to get folks from different cultures
so
that
true.
come to your establishment, because you don't want to service just one
Exactly.
group. But
Exactly.
you know, but you also can't be ignorant of other cultures. Like,
Right.
okay, we're saying, you know, we dress the body in this, and as long as
Right.
they're not doing anything,
Crazy.
you know what I'm saying? Like, let's set this on fire and set it down the ocean. But you know, there's-
I've steered people away from certain clothing.
yeah, exactly. And, you know, and that's what you do. But like, my God, like, so listen, it's never too early. It's important to plan. I mean, for your peace of mind, and then after you're dead, I mean, that's it. But then for the peace of mind of those that you have behind, it's so important. So connect with them. Bishop Funerals Home. They're right on Pleasant Street. What number?
71.
71 Pleasant Street, located right here in Worcester, Massachusetts. So Victor Watson. And we talked so much, I didn't even get a chance because I really wanted to talk about, like, you're just going to have to come back on the show because I really want you to talk about how someone, a young black boy, a young black girl,
Right.
if they want to get into this type of business, how do they start?
Right. It really starts with school.
Okay.
There used to be two, but there's only one school here in Massachusetts now. It's Fine, Fine.
Okay.
It's in Norwood, but you just have to go to school. It's
Okay.
only 2 years.
Okay.
You learn a lot in 2 years. They're trying to make it a 4-year school because it's a lot of information to
There's a
learn in
lot.
2 years.
Yeah.
I would say that. And there's like 2 sets of board exams. There's a national board exam, a state board exam. There's a lot of medical terminology. There's a lot of medical like aspects to the business and chemistry, and there's a lot of science.
There is.
And it's a lot of science to take in 2 years, I will tell you that. It can
Okay.
be overwhelming for some people. It takes some people longer to get through sometimes or to pass the tests.
Okay. But it's a path. And
It is.
we do need more people that look like me and you in that field.
I agree.
I'd love to see a black female funeral director.
Yep.
They're
all in
that's
Boston.
Not me. That is not me.
They're all
But-
in Boston. Let me tell you right now, all of them.
Out, and again, you mentioned Worcester's the second biggest city, right?
Right.
So we need all the things, and more folks are coming here every day, and they're
I
building
agree.
and all of that. So we need more, and say it's Fine School.
Yeah, Fine Mortuary College.
Okay, Fine Mortuary College, and you can go there,
Mm-hmm.
attend, things like that. So we are literally at the end of the show, and I feel like we just got started.
I know.
But what drove you to this career, first of all? Because you mentioned you've had a couple of different jobs, and that's going to be our
I've
last
worked
question.
in a lot of different industries. But I went back to I kind of grew up at a funeral home when I was like younger. And I ended up going back to them like in my youth because they needed like help in the office and things like that. And once I got in there, it was, I need help with this now. Oh, can you do that? Actually, can you dress for this funeral?
Yeah.
Could you help me like pick
Yeah.
up this, so it more and more, I was like, I just need to go to school. I
Yeah.
realized that this is why I wasn't happy at any other job I was working because I had been looking for something that I hadn't found yet.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing some of your story and just really helping us and educating us on the importance of planning,
Yes.
the importance of having empathy, the importance of like just the more you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
The more you know, because we make assumptions about things and then we find out like, we kind of made that harder than it should have been.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we do it. I ain't gonna lie. And FYI, I don't like the outdoors when I agree.
That's all right.
You know I was not fishing.
Yeah,
Like-
no, probably not. It's like, but it can be so fun.
Yeah.
It can.
Yeah, no. But yeah, but thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but no, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show. I
Thanks for
appreciate
having
you
me.
sharing. No, anytime. And I have to have you back on because I think that we touched on so much and we covered
Yeah.
so many. And I think that, and that's what I love about this show. It leads us into different areas and
Right.
different spaces. So
Right.
thank you. So Victor Watson, funeral director, owner of Bishop's Funeral Home, which is located at 71 Pleasant Street in Worcester, the only black-owned funeral home in Worcester, one off under 10 funeral home owned by people of color in Massachusetts. Is empathetic. It's a great place, and please contact him. I really do believe what I've witnessed firsthand and what I've heard. He will treat you and your family right, and on a day that is really one of the toughest days that you'll face when you're, saying goodbye to a loved one. You truly need a space that you feel like, okay, it's okay. So this is it for me. Thank you so much. Shout out to my listeners again. I appreciate you all. Thank you to my sponsor, Paul Anderson Photography. I appreciate you. And until next time, this is Suzanne and
Victor.
saying, what do you want to tell them? Tell them something.
Come by. I don't know.
You heard it. Come by. No, I promise you, stop by.
Yeah.
Some really great information.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.